this is the direction they're going in, and that is positive eugenics. Now, if that's positive, you can imagine how bad negative is.
Well, for our viewers, we would like to know the negative side of it.
Well, negative eugenics is abortion, really, and sterilization. It's just cutting down on the quantity. I mean, they think there's too many people.
And just murder, too, right? I mean,
well, anyway, I mean, the thing is so horrible and unbelievable that if Hitler hadn't existed, I don't think we would believe human beings could even be thinking of a thing like this. And of course, the policy of crypto-eugenics means there's a lot of people who are in every one of these societies who are not doing this and who would not do it. Okay? But because crypto-eugenics advances step by step, people who would never support some of these things support the initial step, and then it unfolds with a logic of its own. First you have statewide mandated screening brought in by community organizations to help people who are born to live better. And the next thing you know, you're talking about keeping the statewide mandated screening and dropping the support. That's crypto-eugenics. A group asked for statewide screening, and their intention was to help people. But because they had been caught up in a vortex of crypto-eugenics they weren't aware of, they're assisting eugenicists to ultimately indirectly coerce, as the article itself said, indirectly coerce women into aborting these children.
And the next question was, before the show we were discussing the connection between the social sciences and the eugenics. Okay, can you tell us which social sciences we are talking about and their impact on the thinking, the philosophy, and the, how shall we say, the culture of today's, world as we know it?
I see. Well, when I did my study of the English society, I got their membership lists from different places, and I looked them up in Who's Who, and they're practically all in there. And I found that they were leaders in the fields of anthropology, which is, and they were certainly involved in that peculiar practice of measuring people's brains and then trying to judge their IQs, which led to tremendous abuses. They were involved in psychology. Two of the people in England, Cyril Burt and H.J. Eysenck, were involved in the scandal over IQ tests in which phony results were used to prove that IQ was hereditary. They were involved in what's called clinical psychiatry. Elliot Slater was one of the leading exponents of electroshock therapy, which has been pretty well discredited, but he was one of the people all during the 50s who was strongly advocating it. Let's see, that's psychology, that's anthropology. The Eugenic Records Office was training people, and they had an arrangement whereby, people you might call interns, were going to work in all the social institutions throughout the east coast of America. And what they would do is some sort of job in institutions for the feeble-minded or institutions for the insane, and at the same time they would gather records on these people and send them back to the Eugenics Records Office. And then, or they went to work for municipal courts that had psychopathology labs, and these psychopathology labs would recommend sterilization for criminals, or segregation, permanent segregation. Instead of having a 5-year sentence because you were a criminal, you had an indefinite sentence because you were hereditary defective, as they call it. Where you'd committed a crime, but in Chicago, one of the judges was a eugenicist, and he'd send you over to the psychopathology lab, and first of all, you would be sterilized. I mean, they wrote books about it. And the Eugenics Records Office was behind this.
When was that?
That was in 1920.
1920?
Well, they were training people from 1910 to about 1923, and then they shifted their emphasis a bit.
you mentioned the London School of Economics.
Yeah, and
part
that's
of
another
it?
social science, yes.
Mhm.
Well, the London School of Economics, its first director was William Beveridge of the Beveridge Report. He was a eugenicist. Its second director was Alexander Carr Saunders. He was director from 1937 to 1953. He was a eugenicist. William Beveridge, who brought in universal health care in England, was a eugenicist. And the proposal was, the basis of the welfare state was made by eugenicists in England. So when you're thinking about universal health care and thinking it sounds good, just remember that the original people that thought it up saw nothing wrong with Hitler, until he invaded England.
Of all the diseases that the eugenics have worked on, have they found cure? How many diseases have they, worked on, and have they found cure for any of these diseases?
Well, I've read that they have now located 28 hereditary diseases, and they found the chromosomes for them, so they can identify them in you, but they haven't found cures. And weren't you telling me recently that Howard University?
Yes.
What was that?
Howard University Sickle Cell Research Center, the funding has to be cut so that there will be no. I think they were very close to finding at least a cure or a remedy for this, sickle cell stuff, but the funding was cut from the institution. So now there will be no research into sickle cell at Howard.
Well, this is what it is. You see, there's this American Society for Human Genetics, and everything sounds fine. You won't find them making any kind of bad remarks about anybody, but you won't find them finding cures either. They just find diseases, and the markers, and all their money, and all their time, and all their energy, and everything connected with the Human Genome Project is the same thing. They're just going to find diseases, and they're not. The money isn't going for cures. So if you've got all these diseases identified and you can identify who has them, the next step is to say that if you won't agree to prenatal screening, then you won't get insurance and you won't get social help afterwards if your child is born with a disease. But they won't make you have it. Indirect coercion, crypto-eugenics. And the worst thing of all, to my mind, is they're not going to screen for 2,800 diseases. They are going to pick out certain ones. And which ones are they going to pick out? I mean, they've started with sickle cell disease. The second one is Tay-Sachs disease, which the Jewish people have. The third one is thalassemia, which is concentrated among the southeastern Europeans, which is the same groups that the eugenicists in the 30s went after. Is what they're going after now.
Have they gotten anything for the Irish yet?
They would like to, but everything that the Irish have, they tend to share with the English, so.
Interesting. So you said that the members of the crypto-eugenics, some of their board members, now belong to the International Planned Parenthood organization?
When International Planned Parenthood was set up, Margaret Sanger, one of its founders, was a member of the Eugenics Society.
Who was she?